The time is now 6:04 PM, and the regular meeting, or rather, workshop, the school board workshop is back in open session. For the record, there was no action taken in closed session. We'll go into agenda item number 4, adjournment. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion on the floor made by trustee Barrera and seconded by trustee Rodriguez. All those in favor of adjournment, please raise your hand. All those opposed, 4 in favor, none opposed, 3 absent. It is now 6:05 PM, and this Roma ISD Board workshop is adjourned. That's it. Now we'll go into the regular meeting. Did you have one for the phone?
Yeah, I give them three.
Okay. Did you pass it down? One is for Mr. Morgan.
Sorry.
You good to go? Ready? Okay. It's the invocation, Mr. Bruce. Okay. Can you do the invocation?
Yeah, let me see where it's at.
Okay. Good evening, Roma ISD family and guests. We're about to start this meeting. It is now 6:07 PM. And I call this regular meeting of the Roma Independent School District Board of Trustees being held this Wednesday, January 26, 2022 to order. Let the record show that this meeting was duly posted according to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. Agenda item number 1 is roll call. Board Vice President, Mr. Jaime Escobar Sr.
Present.
Board Secretary, Mrs. Yadira A. Barrera.
Here.
Board Member, Mrs. Clarissa B. Alvarez. Board Member, Mrs. Mary Lou G. Cruz. Board Member, Mr. Raul P. Moreno Jr.
Here.
Board Member, Mr. Reynaldo Rodriguez Jr.
Here.
And myself, Board President, Mr. Ricardo A. Perez, present. Let the record show we do have a quorum in attendance at this regular meeting. Agenda items number 2 and 3 are the invocation and pledge of allegiance. The invocation this evening will be delivered by Trustee Mr. Jaime Escobar Sr., and the pledge of allegiance by Trustee Secretary Mrs. Yadira A. Barrera. Would everyone please stand?
Please join me. Loving and gracious God, we thank you today for all your blessings. We continue to seek your wisdom, guidance, and courage and strength. Give us the insight to lead us with integrity, that our decisions may reflect what is right and good. Help us to make decisions that are for the good of all, and guard us from blind self-interest. Dear Lord, grant us the humility to always seek your will in all that we do and say. Amen.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Escobar and Mrs. Barrera. Agenda item number 4 is public comments. Superintendent?
Yes, we have one person signed up, Mrs. Yadira Barrera.
Okay.
I'm gonna step up.
Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes per speaker, and the speaker will be informed when he or she has 1 minute remaining. Speakers who engage in personal attacks or use insulting, profane, threatening, or abusive language during the board meeting shall be ruled out of order by the presiding officer and have their presentation stopped. Any concerns or complaints regarding employees, public officials, students, or parents must be resolved via the appropriate complaint process as stated in BED Local pursuant to 551.042 of the Texas Government Code. No board member or administrator may respond to a member of the public unless such response is a recitation of district policy or a statement of specific information. Mrs. Barrera?
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. President, Mr. Guzman, administrators, and everybody else present. I'm Yadira Barrera. I am a mother of this district. I am also a medical provider, physician assistant to be exact, at a pediatric clinic at a community. And I'm also a board member, but at this time, I'm waiving my right as a member because I want to address myself as a medical provider in our area. First of all, I do want to congratulate the district for all of the efforts that they've been doing to mitigate the spread of COVID. I know some it may go unnoticed, but I really know everything that has been going on, all the work that has been put into it, the teamwork that has been done, and all the collaboration. I know that there have been humidifiers installed in schools. I just recently heard that there was a purchase for air purifiers as well. It's to my understanding that the district has now purchased KN95 masks for teachers and everybody. I know the students are also following their protocols, wearing their masks, their hand sanitizing, and trying to keep their distance. So I really appreciate everything that has been going on with that. It's unfortunate that right now we are currently at what we could consider kind of a hot spot for COVID. And it's unfortunate. I know that a lot of efforts have been trying to try to keep our students in campus, but for one reason or another, they've become infected or they've been in close contact or something, and they have to be, doing their remote learning for the 10 days that the TA has allowed. Recently, as a function and as board member, I was in a meeting with the attorneys. I know Ms. Cruz, who's not here today, and Mr. Escobar was in that meeting. We're in the meeting as well, and we received this flow chart for the guidelines that the district is following in regards to the COVID. How to manage the situation and how to keep students quarantined and staff as well. There were some issues that have been brought up, and I know I did address myself with Ms. Belmontes earlier today in regards to some inconsistencies that have been going on in between campuses. So that's really what I want to address. I do want to ask that campuses do keep that consistency because it helps us as providers to follow the same things or the same guidelines that you guys are following as well. There is some concerns. There are some concerns that have been come up to the attention, and I did bring it up, but I do want to express it as well. I know students if they're COVID positive, they must stay home for 10 days. I know, I see it. It's obvious there. We already know that. We are following that. But there's discrepancies into how we count the days. When or do they return? If they were COVID positive on the 17th, do they return to school on the 27th, or do they return till the 28th? Which is it? Do we count from the day that they tested positive, or when do we start counting? So those little issues are issues that you guys, I guess, need to address to us so that we can help you with mitigating the spread. There's another little, I guess, phrase or there it says, if students are COVID positive and they're symptomatic, exclude until at least 10 days have passed since symptom onset. So there are no discrepancy there as well. Do we count when the symptoms started, or do we count when they test positive? Because truly they can have symptoms at least 2 days before they actually test positive. So that's something that I would want, I guess, you guys to come into a consensus and communicate with the providers so that we can help you with this issue. Okay? There's another one. If we look at the back page, COVID symptomatic individuals on campuses. Okay? So I know CDC has released these recommendations, as well as these are recommendations as well that have been passed. And CDC does say that if you're fully vaccinated and you've boosted, then you can, even if you've been exposed, you can continue working, or you can continue, students can continue attending school and whatnot. But we are seeing that even though students or people are vaccinated, we are, and I say we are because, as you all know, I was recently infected with myself. We are still getting infected with this virus. So what I have been doing, and this is me, I know every provider is different. If they are living in the same household, I am asking for them to just quarantine despite their vaccination status. I know other providers might be different. I know campuses are doing something different. And I know some principals are requiring for them to quarantine, or they are asking for them to quarantine, and others are being okay. So we need to be in consistency there as well. Like I said, I would prefer for them to stay quarantined because they are living in the same household. So they've already been exposed for 2 days prior to knowing that they've been positive. So, the likelihood of them becoming positive themselves is very, very high. So just to avoid that, them coming to school and bringing the virus over, despite, everything that has been going on, all the efforts that you guys are doing, I think it would just be wise to keep them quarantined. So if that is something that, you guys can discuss and let us know as well, so that we can all be in consistency with each other, to help each other and to help this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, we'll go into agenda item number 5, consent agenda. Consent agenda items 5A through 5I, approval of minutes of previous meetings, approval of bills, investment report, financial update report, electricity usage analysis, transportation report, tax collection report, fixed assets report, and student enrollment report. Presenters will be District Business Manager Mr. Pedro Alanis and District Network Director Mr. Manuel Garcia.
Good evening.
Trustees, you have had an opportunity to review these items. Do you have any questions for Mr. Alanis?
Check number 49652, Mr. Alanis, on page 32.
What happened, Mr. Bonham?
49652, it's kind of at the very top, 17,377.80. It says supplies and materials, but
Yeah, it's a repair of a school bus.
for one school bus?
I'll get back to you with that. It's a repair of buses, but I don't know how many.
Okay. On page 48, kind of towards the bottom, 49,573. $5,646.36.
It's the security doors we put in at campuses. This is for Royal Encina signs. At the entrance of Royal Encina signs.
Okay, sir, I know that you've been mentioning that, but see, that's what I'm saying. If you add all those amounts, don't they go way over the procurement amount?
No, sir. Last year, we bid it out. We asked for a bid, and because it was going to be for 50,000. But this year, I believe that's RC sign that was pending. So, and for the carriage, the vendor, the previously mentioned vendor is a motor for a school bus.
The 17,000?
Yes,
One motor.
yes. And it's a by-board vendor.
And on page 28, 49,462, right in the middle. $900.
Which page?
Page 28, that's right in the middle, I believe.
49462.
Yes, sir.
That's for a mini split unit for the transportation department.
On the very first page, sir, in the very middle. $25,025.78 is the total amount.
Oh, yeah.
These are materials being purchased by most of them by the CTE department at the high school, the shop teachers.
By shop?
Yes.
And three electric bulbs, 5,000, that's for 15,000.
But they're for the high school shop department.
See, remember we asked you, Mr. Alanis, last time, why in the description can't we put 3 electric welders? Instead of putting furniture and equipment, more than 5,000.
It's standard, Mr. Moreno. The system itself, it generates a report, but we cannot put, since there are several, like in some cases, there's like 20 or 30 different.
There's a template, but there's nowhere where you can put, like right now, like he just said, 3 MIG welders, whatever it is, that you can't.
On the actual PO, it does give the description, but when we run the report, it'll give us the chart of account description. So what we have here is the chart of account description, what we use to describe those.
It summarizes all the invoices in one.
Okay, I know that this has been brought up, before, it's been a concern. Is there any way, in the future, that we can get the software, or,
Yes.
I know that we've talked about this, well, let's see if we can get this
We can get a
done.
report that includes every single transaction, but it's gonna be like maybe 100, 200 pages
No.
or more.
Okay.
But it'll include every single purchase.
Well, it doesn't, Mr. Alanis, just, you see what I'm seeing, you see what we're seeing right here? It's just a description, just like Mr. Garza told us right
Yeah,
now.
but in some instances, there's like several items in that item.
But then I see that there's others where there's actually like if something was typed in. And I'm not gonna go through 10 pages, but I'll look for it and I'll send it to you. There's something where it's actually typed in. So why can that one be typed in And why can't the other be typed in?
Because
That's what I'm
it's,
saying.
Computer generated, but we can provide the detail, all the detail, every single transaction.
Okay, would it help then, prior to the meeting, if a trustee has a request that you receive this, how much time do you need
Yeah,
to be able to generate this information?
no, we can print it out.
Like that
No.
specific, for that
Yes.
specific one you say, right?
We'll print out the report and
Okay, so then if a trustee has a question, okay, and I want to be able to square this out. If a trustee has a question regarding this, they can call you, if a meeting is scheduled for Wednesday or Thursday, they can call you on the Monday, or they can call you on the Tuesday, and you'll be able to generate this information?
yes, like in less than a minute.
Mr. Alanis, did you guys change the software that you were using for the reports or something? Was it changed?
That's not-
I guess whatever you guys use to print out these reports, is it something new or different?
It's, we've been using it, it's through Region 1, the program is through Region 1.
Okay.
We can go out for bid for a new program, but we don't recommend it.
But this is something that we've always asked for, so it's nothing that we're barely asking for right now.
That's correct.
No,
Mr.
I know,
Alanis,
but-
and the thing
That's
is,
what I'm
right now, on page 41, if you go kind of towards the bottom 1/4 of the page, on the description, there it says, it's for the Transportation Department, RBMS Mariachi, but then you see that there's one that says competition. It's like if somebody typed that one in.
It's, maybe in that occasion, there was only just one,
But it was typed in.
no, it's a.
The template, the font, well, okay.
When, at the campus level, when the secretary types it in, they type it in, but sometimes when we print the reports, it comes in the report, but sometimes it gets the general ledger account.
But you see what I'm looking at, right?
Where it says competition, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that there, it's like a different font, like, it's typed in. It's not, like, why wouldn't it
It's
be the same as the
lowercase,
other,
and
why
you're
wouldn't
saying
it be the same as the other ones?
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
It's right under where it says RBMS Mariachi Concert.
And then, okay, and then if you go down, trip to Hidalgo, trip to San Perlita, those are not templates.
Yeah, but they're still computer generated. But we can provide a detail about the transactions.
Okay,
let's try to do that, Mr. Alanis. Okay?
Any other questions for Mr. Alanis? Okay. A 5I student enrollment report, Mr.
Well,
Garcia?
I'm sorry,
Go ahead, sir.
I've got a question on the investment report.
Okay.
Why does everything say maturity? We're already past maturity. All of them.
On what page?
On the investment report, which is right after the bills.
Yeah, right after.
They're all, they say all matured and they're say all 10/31/2021. It's right after the bills. It's
Mr.
page
Alanis, this
30,
one.
it's page 52.
Yes, there should be 2023. We just been doing for 2 years.
So they should be 23,
Yes.
all of them.
Yes.
All of them?
Maturity 2023 is what we're saying?
Correct.
10/31/2023.
2023.
Correct, yes.
Yes?
Anything else? Mr. Garcia, your report on enrollment?
Good evening.
Mr. Garcia, so correct me if I'm wrong, we had an increase of 113 new students to the district?
That is the difference between the snapshot and January, so yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I saw that each campus has an increase,
Yes,
with the exception of ING, but I'm assuming that
Yeah,
students
just
got out
transfer.
and, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Every month we've been increasing, let's say since October, let's say we increase 100 and some kids, so every month about 20, 30, 40 kids. So our enrollment is getting up there. Hopefully we can reach our projected, which was about 6,000, which hopefully we can get there before the end of the year.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Any other questions for Mr. Garcia? All right, then, well, thank you, Mr. Alanis, and thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Well, oh, I'm sorry, sir, I didn't know, on the electricity usage, we've never gone over that. We're already más o menos compared, our full attendance year, our last full attendance year was what? 20 what?
20.
19? 2020?
Yes, up to February of 2020.
¿Verdad? Okay, and then right now, the fiscal year, for this year, we could say that when we started the year, we're pretty much on track. Yeah, some kids were not there, but we're already there, ¿verdad? In other words, and as of right now, we're even past it, you know? The numbers of kids, and so we're already back to normal in the classrooms, that's what I'm saying.
So we have less students than 2020.
But our classes are turned on, our in other words, we're using everything as we're supposed to be using it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You, by looking at these reports, because you guys are the ones generating and putting them here, are we saving? Because the ones I'm looking at, maybe I'm not looking right, that's what I'm gonna say, aren't we saving? On all of them? Bueno, pretty much on all of them.
On some we are, but on some we're not.
But for the most part, we are,
Is it back here?
correct?
Um,
I'm not, for the most part. In other words, because my other question is, I don't see, how is it that we're saving on some when the,
compared to what year before?
pues,
19 to 2019
pues,
or 20?
the 2019, 2020, which is a complete full year when students were here, because we couldn't compare it to last year, because last year, but no, we weren't running full blast, right?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So you're giving us these charts where on one side it says fiscal year 2019, 2020. Is that one, we can say that one's pretty accurate when kids were, in other words, our campuses were full?
Yes, all the way till February.
Okay, fiscal 2021, 2022, that's this year. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if you compare from that year to this year, it's pretty indicative if we're saving or not, because the usage, ¿verdad que sí?
We have less students.
But it doesn't have to do anything with the student. I'm just saying, the classroom is on, the light is on. I'm getting to the usage, sir. So my question is, on the usage, are we saving overall?
Like last month, it was 1.6 million, 1920, and 1.6 million, plus or minus, about $40,000 less.
Yes, sir, but going to this, what you guys gave us, what we asked for, are we saving from a full year that we had our kids attending to right now? And you just said right now, on some yes and on some no, but for the most part, we are or we're not?
For the most part, I would say we are saving.
Okay, and now we are. And okay, so now my question is, why is it that on some, like you said, that we're not, I see that we're using less, but it's still coming out more? On some, not on all of them.
Like, what do you mean?
Let me see. I'll give it to you. Hold on. Like if you go to the electric usage for ING, say October through November of fiscal 2019, 2020, you're at 23 the kilowatts, and we spent 3,024. This year, October through November, we spent 23 más o menos, but yet it wasn't that much of a savings. It was only like 600. It was, but there's others. I don't want to spend more time, but there's others that we're still spending less kilowatts, but yet we're spending a little bit more. But for the most part, we're saving. Why is that?
Like by campus or?
Pues, yes, because
Yeah.
that's how you guys gave them to us.
Depending on certain campuses, they have more uses than other campuses, and every month is different. So it's a,
Last time I asked and you said something, it was like an average, because when I asked how come the kilowatt amount was different for each campus, and you said it was like a formula that you guys were using or some average, and that each month was gonna come out different. But in essence, it was still within whatever was adopted before.
for example, ING, there are some months that, compared to the months 2 years back, sometimes it's higher than, sometimes it's lower, and it's unpredictable.
Mr. Lanis, we put this because of the LED lights, let's be honest. This is why we put this there. My question is, are we saving or not? Because according to this report, for the most part, we are.
Yes.
That's my question. Are we saving or not because of the LED lights?
And some companies, yes, we are, overall we are, but
Thank you.
some companies are different.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
We should save more money with the new kilowatt amount that we just, with TASB, right? When is that in effect?
December,
So it already started this,
yes.
okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Thank you, Mr. Alanis. Is there a motion for agenda item number 5?
I move to approve consent agenda 5A through I as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? There being no further discussion, there is a motion on the floor by trustee Escobar and seconded by trustee Rodriguez to approve consent agenda items 5A through 5I as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye, but I'm abstaining from agenda item B.
Okay, all those opposed?
I'm abstaining as well for the same item.
That'll be for 5B. Okay. All right, then we have, but you're voting affirmatively for the other items, is that correct,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Morgan? Okay. All right, then we have 5 in favor, 2 absent, and 2 abstentions for item 5B. Motion carries. Agenda item 6 is consideration possible action on approving the annual comprehensive financial report for 2020-2021 fiscal year. The presenter is supposed to be Mr. Quentin Anderson. Mr. Anderson, there you are, sir. I didn't see you. Welcome, and you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, members of the board, Mr. Guzman. You have, I believe you had in your electronic package a draft of the financial statements, and you have the bound reports that the district has completed in conjunction with our personnel. And so I'm here to give you an overview of the financial information in that report. I want to take you to the tab that says financial section in the bound report. And starting there, after the first page is the independent auditor's report. And so the independent auditor's report talks about the financial statements, management's responsibility, and our role. And it indicates that we've audited the statements and that if you turn to page 10 and 11, the financial statements fairly present in all material respects your financial position of all the funds of the district and the changes in the financial position. So your financial position is represented by your assets and liabilities, and and net position, and the changes are your revenues and expenses. And so, for the past fiscal year, and it does so in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. That would be a modified report. The next paragraph there is a new matter in the current period where there were some changes in accounting principle that dealt with fiduciary activities, primarily your student activity funds, and you guys implemented and adopted GASB statement number 84, as did all of our Texas school districts and a lot of other local governments. And so nothing unusual, it's just an adoption of a new standard, and so it's emphasized in the report. It doesn't have an impact on whether the statements are fairly presented or not. So if you go to page 13, the report, of course, has a lot of required schedules in it, and then some other supplementary information. And it also has some reports that deal with compliance with laws and regulations, and nothing new in the verbiage in this report. Those are matters that are communicated each year. So we've issued two separate reports, one dealing with controls over financial reporting and compliance, and one dealing with compliance specifically with your major federal grant program requirements. And those are back in the back in a tab called single audit. I'm going to wait to talk about those until we go over the financial statement information. So after the opinion is a section called Management's Discussion and Analysis. It begins on page 15. I'm going to use a couple of tables that the Finance Department has put together to summarize what's happened in the district this past year. Go to page 20, and you'll see table A1, which reflects your net position. And it's I like the table because it's comparative, and it'll show last year and the current year. And so, there's been some growth in total assets compared to the prior year, but also primarily some growth in net position, from $57 million to nearly $65 million. So the results of operations for the past fiscal year are pretty positive when we look at the operating statement. A lot of, I don't want to say unusual circumstances, but we're in an environment where a lot of additional funds have been provided dealing with things like COVID and how to handle some of the issues that the districts have encountered. And so you had a great deal of additional federal awards, as well as some additional local revenue. The rate per student was increased from one year to the next in state and local revenues, and you also had, we'll see that, and I'll point it out on the next page, you executed another wind farm contract and had an additional local revenues of maybe an additional $2.6 million compared to the prior year. So we can see that on page 22, where there's a decent comparison of one year to the next. On table A2 of all of your revenues, you can see your revenues grew from $84 million to $97 million. And then these are all the funds of the district combined, general fund and all of your special revenue funds and your grant funds. And so there's additional state aid and quite a bit of additional other grants and contributions coming through federal awards. And yet your overall expenditures didn't increase as substantially as the revenues did. So these additional funding sources have created $7.5 million difference between revenues and expenses. Where last year, we were in a different environment, and you consumed $3.5 million of your net position. So the combined consolidated presentation of all your funds, it reflects pretty favorable operating results. Let's go to page 24 and some of the things we want to point out, some of the activity that occurred in capital assets, and you'll highlight that there weren't any substantial construction projects going on, but there were some projects that were being completed, the ROTC building, RCS elementary repairs, and RVM repairs going on. That was about $1.7 million. Talked about how expensive a bus engine is, right? You can see you acquired two buses for $129,000. The bus itself is a fairly expensive acquisition. And so you guys, finance just chose to itemize these, because there's substantial events that occurred within the district. There was additional software being acquired, and I see where the emphasis is coming. Have we saved electricity or not? And your LED light retrofit and HVAC improvements, that was $1.8 million. I'm sure was that a good investment, perhaps, is where you're driving those questions for. But that was a big project too, with $1.8 million spent on those funds. So.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt, but now, just because we're on that page, and I'm seeing right here, at the very bottom, it says, other buildings and improvements and stuff, and I'm seeing, it says batting cages for Roma High School, and it says 24,890, just under 25,000. I guess my question is, when did this happen?
That was something acquired or completed during the fiscal year.
No, I understand, sir. I'm asking when did this happen?
Mr. Lanise.
During the school year.
Was it the insurance money that, the cages during some windstorm or something were destroyed? The softball, I remember something like that. And tennis.
No, but I'm sorry, but we're getting off the subject. This is baseball, batting cages. When did we do these? And now that Mr. Escobar is mentioning the softball that had wind damage and stuff, what's up with Title IX? Why didn't we do anything for the girls? Why didn't we do anything for their softball field?
Okay, I think we can probably discuss that at another time. Let Mr. Anderson complete with his report.
Well,
Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
well, again, okay, then let me get back to this. Then when was this done exactly? Could you please? Please.
Yeah. Very well. Unfortunately, I don't have that information. There's an overall summary recap of capital assets in table A4, but I want to turn to page 26, which is kind of a recap of long-term debt. So there were no new bonds issued during the year. You did have some capital lease improvements that you entered into, and I believe it's for the LED lighting, and so that's about $1.8 million additions into that property finance contract. You see that, but no significant additional long-term debt, no new bonds. You made payments on your long-term debt. There's some detailed footnotes in the financial statements that cover the long-term debt and describe each one of those issuances. So I want to take you to some information on your general fund and your general fund balances, which is your primary budgeted fund. So let's go to page 31. Page 31 is a recap of assets and liabilities and fund balance for your governmental funds, and the biggest fund, of course, being your general fund. So you'll see down there in the bottom, the general fund balance ended up at $36.2 million, almost $36.3 million. Last year that was about $28 million. So there's a good increase in general fund balance. You can see on page 33.
That increase was due to what, sir?
Okay, on page 33, let's see if I can point out some of the key items that caused that increase. So if you look at your revenues in the general fund, they're $72.7 million, and last year they were $64 million. Okay, local revenues increased from $7 million to $9.3 million, and a big chunk of that was that new wind farm contract that brought in nearly an extra $2 million. So that can help explain. Most of local and intermediate sources are probably going to be property taxes and things of that nature, but the increase is a result of the 313 agreements that you guys entered into, and they're disclosed in the notes to the financial statements. And state program revenues they went up about $3 million from 52.5 to 55.6. But where another bigger increase is in federal program revenues at $7.7 million in the general fund. Last year, that was $5 million, and you have some of that is an increase in food service program revenues, but you also had, for the first time that I'm aware of, you had the child and adult feeding program that was about $1.8 million in additional revenues, and so those revenues at 72 million have increased from the prior year, which was $64 million, while your overall expenditures at 66 million, pretty close to last year of 65 million. So expenditures were fairly controlled, and revenues went up, some of which had, because of things you did, and some of which the extra funding that came in from federal awards and some additional state funding, as well as the wind farm. So overall expenditures were comparable, and in fact changed by about $700,000. And then you see that capital lease of $1.8 million. That's the LED lighting and HVAC. That's also similar type expenditure up in facilities acquisition of $1.8 million. That was funded in that regard. Now, if we look at overall total revenues, nearly $92 million, or last year, that was $81 million, and the bulk of that's going to be that increase in the local revenues, but an additional increase in federal award programs. So your total of $20.9 million in federal awards last year in total, that was only about $15 million. So in your other special revenue funds, you received another extra $3 million. While we're talking about that, let's go ahead and jump to page 145, which itemizes all of those federal awards, some of which are reported in the general fund, primarily food service, and some of which are reported in your other funds. So last year, again, this schedule of federal awards reflected a balance of about $15 million, and this year it's $20 million. And a couple of major differences are, if you'll slide down to the COVID-19 elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund, as the ESSER funds, those you had $3.9 million in one component of that program, and then another $2.7 million. So a total of $6.7 million in ESSER funds coming to help you deal with COVID-related matters. And last year, you were just in the beginning of that funding and only had about $1 million in those programs. So you still have, I think I saw on your agenda, some additional things you're going to be doing with ESSER funds and how you're going to be utilizing those funds. So we saw in the general fund some local revenue increase, state revenue increase, and food service fund increase. And then in the other special revenue funds, a fairly substantial increase because, most of which came from the ESSER-related funds for COVID. If you were to kind of assess your financial condition at the end of this fiscal period, it's fairly substantial. I mean, your revenues were way ahead of expenditures, and your fund balance has grown to $36.2 million. So, I want to take you to reports on compliance. Well, actually, let's go to page 98 and 99. One of the major local revenue sources you have control over are your property taxes. And so page 98 and 99 gives you a kind of a 10-year running recap of what your rates have been and what they are presently and what your assessed valuations have been and what your tax levy is. So we saw that in your fairly substantial amount of local revenues some of that comes directly here from property taxes, $6.8 million in property tax revenues during the year. I want to take you now to the compliance section of the report. A tab called Single Audit section begins back at page 133. And so, as I mentioned when we were overviewing the independent auditor's report, we issued two separate reports. And so, the report on page 133 is because you're a local government, and regardless of whether you received any federal grant awards, because you're a local government in Texas, you'd have a report under government auditing standards. And we looked at internal controls over financial reporting, and we looked at compliance matters associated with government auditing standards. And we didn't identify matters that were categorized as any type of material weakness or non-compliance in specifically with the matters we were testing in that report. So that's favorable for you. Page 137 deals specifically with those $20 million in federal grant awards that are on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. And so it shows that we evaluated the requirements that could have a direct and material effect on your major program compliance. And on page 139, we said at the top of the page, in our opinion, you complied in all material respects with the requirements that can have a direct and material effect on those major programs that are on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So there's a lot of words in both of those reports, but it's summarized pretty succinctly on page 141. So page 141 is a summary report that tells what's in both of those other reports. There weren't material weaknesses identified or non-compliance related to these programs, and so the answers to those are no, and that's what you would expect as board members. And then there's a list of a couple of the major new awards that came into play during the year: the Child and Adult Care Food Program, and then those two COVID grants, ESSER 1 and ESSER 3 primarily. So again, those matters those reports reflect favorably on you. We did issue a separate report that you should have in your packet where we deal with matters that arose during the conduct of the audit. And we reviewed this report with the superintendent and with management. We had some matters that we've made some recommendations on that I want to visit with you about. Most of the first several pages deal with information similar to the auditor's report. It talks about responsibilities under general accepted auditing standards and client responsibilities, and makes note of the fact that there's some significant accounting policies that they're not unusual to you as a Texas district. You implemented GASB 84 as the opinion talked about. It goes on page 6 to identify the fact that we work with you to make some adjustments during the audit process. But at the bottom of page 6, we refer to the fact that we did have some internal control related matters that I want to go through quickly with you, or I'll spend as much time as you'd like. After page 24. Page 24 has internal control findings, and so we made some recommendations based on the work that we did and things that came up during the audit process, and they're itemized beginning on page 25. We had some adjustments that were required related to revenues that you had recorded in the National School Lunch Program, and there was a small adjustment, not material, but something that required to be adjusted. We made some recommendations on making those accruals at the end of the fiscal period.
Were those recommendations, sir? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. format of this document's not as easy to follow as it could be. But so we have the item that we noted, right, where we said that they had an accrual for program revenue, school lunch program revenues that wasn't made.
I'm sorry, I got it.
And then there's a recommendation, and then management's response on what they're doing, the corrective action that you've taken to deal with those matters. So, and then second comment has to deal with the way you had initially accounted for your summer food program. You included it incorrectly in Fund 242 instead of in 101 with the other lunch program funds. And so there was a big entry to reclassify all those revenues. Didn't change the dollar amounts and didn't have any impact on whether or not they were recorded properly, or just they were accounted for in the wrong fund. And so, and there was an entry made to reflect that. So we made a suggestion on, I know GASB 68 and 75, which our meeting was topic for. That has to do with the pension plan, with your participation in the teacher retirement system and supplemental retiree health care program. And so you guys make payments probably every payroll, but at least every month into TRS, and we felt like you lacked a formal approval process documenting the transfer of those payments every month. And so we recommended that you establish a process of documenting with signatures on for the electronic transfer. So nothing wrong with the amounts that transferred, and none of them were incorrect. Just the internal control process is what we're recommending. On page 27, we came across this through inquiries and through correspondence from legal counsel, but you entered into a utility contract that hadn't gone through the full procurement process as far as policies for board approval. And so we thought that was a deficiency that would, and made a recommendation on changing practice to ensure that there's board approval on contracts like that. And that's already been rectified. So in your response, that the contract was voided and you reinitiated the process and have a contract that has been approved. And then the next comment on that page has to do with some IRS notices that you have related to payroll forms or basically insurance-related forms, communicating with your personnel on the insurance coverage that each employee has under the Affordable Care Act, and you failed, it appeared, to file those forms and had penalties assessed, and so or made a recommendation primarily that instances like that should be brought to attention, appropriate levels of management and done so on a timely basis so that they don't accumulate and become issues. And you guys took some action and have had your counsel make an appeal on those penalties, and you feel like that process, that you've established reasonable cause for what caused that deficiency, and you're waiting to hear. You're anticipating that, as you heard on the earlier notices, that you'll receive an abatement for that. And so this was a matter that came up during the audit, and it was also communicated to us in your legal counsel confirmation. So I know that, and in there they described the actions that were being taken. So the last comment is just an informational comment. And there's a new accounting standard for governments, governmental accounting standard for statement 87 that is going to impact the way your local governments are accounting for leases. So if you have any equipment being leased, if you were leasing copy machines, or computers, or buses, or other vehicles. GASB 87 is going to require a change in method of accounting, and it's going to be effective this year. So when you get to the end of the next fiscal year, you want to have already addressed it, because there's going to be some accounting entries to make by finance, and can certainly assist in getting those entries made correctly. But the primary goal right now would be get an itemized list of all of your outstanding leases, right? And so you can quantify how significant of an effort it will be to implement. It could be very difficult. Larger entities and districts who lease a lot of equipment are going to have a challenge of identifying all the leases and identifying and computing the adjustment entry that will be made. So, and for simplicity, if you had an operating lease where you're leasing, we'll use a copy machine as an example, and you're paying $500 a month, and so at the end of the year you have a $6,000 lease expense. Well, the new GASB says, assuming it's material, that what you really have is an asset, a right to use asset, and you book the right to use asset, and you book a liability for the lease if it's a long-term contract. So it will require some computations, and the more leases you have, the more difficult and challenging it will be. We're just, that's not anything you're doing wrong. It's something that's going to affect you, and it's going to affect all local governments and definitely all of our school districts. So that's an overview of the report and our recommendations. And I'm glad to address the questions if you have any. I don't know if we can get back to the answer to Mr. Moreno's question.
What was the date? For the softball field or baseball field?
But they were softball cages, not baseball cages. Okay. All right.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Anderson? Well, then thank you, Mr. Anderson, for your presentation, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? If no further discussion, there's a motion on the floor by Trustee Barrera and seconded by Trustee Escobar to approve agenda item number 6 as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
It's 5-4, none opposed, 2 absent, motion carries. Thank you once again, Mr. Anderson.
Safe trip.
Agenda item number 7 is discussion and possible action on approving caring for Roma ISD 2022 COVID premium pay and staff development stipend in an amount not to exceed $2,000 for all Roma ISD professional employees and not to exceed $1,750 for all Roma ISD paraprofessional employees. Presenter will be District Federal Programs Director, Dr. Adrian Guerra. Dr. Guerra, you have the floor.
Good evening, members of the board, Board President Mr. Perez, Superintendent Guzman. So for agenda items 7, 8, 9, and 10, I'm going to refer to the spiral-bound booklet that I provided for you this evening. All presentation information for these 4 agenda items are included in this booklet. So I'm going to begin with agenda item number 7, Caring for Roma ISD 2022. If you remember, we did a Caring for Roma ISD approximately a year ago, 2021. So the COVID-19 pandemic has taken a toll on all of us physically, emotionally, and mentally. And putting it mildly, everyone is just exhausted with this pandemic, and that's putting it mildly. As a result of the spike in COVID-19 cases and the increased anxiety that ensued, we want to provide a COVID premium payment for all employees who have responded to additional stresses, duties, and tasks due to the pandemic, along with a staff development stipend for employees to attend the training to minimize the risk of COVID. So this has 2 parts. The first part is a premium payment for all employees who are employed for at least 20 continuous hours per week as of February 1st, 2022. The total premium payment is $1,500 per employee. The second part is a staff development stipend for all employees who are employed 20 hours per week to attend a staff development session for a stipend of $500 for professionals and $250 for paraprofessionals. This brings the total payment for professional employees to $2,000 and paraprofessional employees $1,750. In order to receive the staff development stipend, employees would need to attend one of 3 sessions, and this will be held at the Roma ISD Performing Arts Center in person. The dates we have set aside for this are Saturday, February the 5th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. That's in Spanish. And then that same day from 11 a.m., and that's a correction from what I presented to you, I put 11 p.m. erroneously, to 1 p.m. in English on that same Saturday. And then Thursday, February the 10th from 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. in English. So the topics being presented are addressing mental health issues, 2, reducing the spread of infectious diseases, and understanding the importance of vitamin D for overall health. We have 3 presenters scheduled: Dr. Raymond P. Musset, Mrs. Lori Trevino, and Dr. Matilde Alanis will be helping us with these presentations. The total cost for this program ends up being $2,241,000. The funding comes from ESSER 2 grant. The stipend is scheduled to be paid on or around March 11th, 2022. That is the Friday right before spring break. It is important to understand that this is a separate program from the recruitment retention stipend. So the last installment of the 50% of the recruitment stipend will be paid at the beginning of June. That is still on schedule. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to send out a memo to every employee of the school district in English and in Spanish detailing all this information for all employees. So the recommendation tonight is to approve agenda item for a total of $2,000 for professional employees and $1,750 for paraprofessional employees who meet the criteria and satisfy all requirements. And that ends my portion of the presentation.
So this is, Dr. Guerrero, this is in addition to what we've already approved as a board for...
That is correct, and in a moment, in one of the other presentations, I'll give a detail as to what we've given, just so that everybody's clear.
Thank you, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve this agenda item.
I'll second it.
Okay, right. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Shouldn't we be having workshops to who decides, and it's gonna be my question again, who decides the 2,000, who decides the 1,750, who decides the 350?
Okay, so that decision is mostly made by myself, and that comes from workshops that we've been attending. So we've got to stay within the norm, and things have to be reasonable.
But those are the workshops, Mr. Guerra, Dr. Guerra, Mr. Guzman, that we should be having, not for possible sponsors of an LED, for LED sponsors for the thing. Those are the workshops that we should be having to see what we're going to do with ESSER funds. We don't know. That's what I'm saying. Who puts the amount? In other words, we're being told the amount. And this is not the first time that we asked for this.
So a little later on, I'm going to present the ESSER budget, and you're going to look that we can't just decide to spend things at random when it comes to ESSER. And I'm going to go into detail as to the steps that have to be followed. I'll also go into detail as to the workshops that I've attended myself, where we get guidance on this from TEA.
Dr. Guerra,
things can be spent.
Dr. Guerra, I'm not saying that you don't get workshops, that you don't get guidance. Our thing is that what are we doing? We're just approving amounts. Shouldn't we have input in this?
Well, I'm the one that's in charge. Go ahead, Mr.
I
Ozone,
think the input is you can vote for or against. These are recommendations, they're not decisions. The decision is the board's decisions to approve or not approve.
Yeah, but again, sir, and that's what we're being told. Será así o no será así?
Well, I'm the one that manages the budget, Mr. Moreno, and all this, so I'm the one that has to put my signature on all this.
And don't get me wrong, sir, I understand that, but I think that we should have a say-so as a board
Well, we are
As a
having a
board-
say-so as a board, Mr.
We're just
Moreno.
deciding on an amount, and that's it.
Well, I understand that. We are deciding based on the recommendation of the director
But that-
and the superintendent. So, I mean, what, I
Sir,
don't understand.
you're actually telling me that you guys have no questions whatsoever when things get presented. In other words, when they get presented to you like this, you're fine with it.
If we have questions, we ask them like you are asking right now. But at this point, we're basing our decision as a board, whether we agree with it or we don't agree with it, based on the recommendation of those individuals that are directly involved with this particular funding.
Sir,
If it's recommended by the superintendent and it's recommended by the director of the program, then I would think that we should follow, based on any questioning that we may have, but we should follow their best judgment.
I'm not saying that we're not following their best judgments, or I'm not saying that they're not using their best judgment. My thing is that as a board, I think we should have an input, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think as a board, we should have an input. ¿Qué es lo que se está haciendo con el dinero? We're just approving yes or no. And again, we're fine with it because why? And let's be honest, because you guys already know about it.
I didn't know about it. I just found out about it.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand that everybody knew about it because this is.
was
Sir,
board book.
sir,
by
se la
myself in the
pasa.
office.
Okay,
That's,
all right. Look,
in other words, and it's nice when it's said out here. It se oye bien bonito, but we know that that's not the case.
Well, I don't know about that, Mr. Moreno, and I really do not like what you're implying. I think that we should let the those of directors that are in charge recommend to the Board of Trustees what they think is best. And if we have any real concern about it, then we can question it.
Well, I have
And
a
you will
concern
have,
about it.
and you
I
will
have a real
have that
concern about
opportunity,
it.
sir. You're going to have that opportunity to vote for it or vote against it.
So when we came onto the board, it's just, we're just gonna vote for yes we're gonna vote yes or no, and that's it. We don't suggest, we don't do anything. That's not right.
Well,
I
And again, the majority is.
yeah, no, it
I'm
has
gonna speak
nothing
for
to do with
myself.
that. I really.
I don't have any questions in this time. Last time I did have questions. We asked all these questions. We've done something like this in the past. Now, these are different, two of them are different topics compared to what we're given in the past. So I don't have a problem with it because I know that their mental health issue is a big deal right now. Everybody, I think we can say we're a little bit burned out with doing our duties, plus then on top of that, thinking about COVID and trying to mitigate the spread. And so I know it's overwhelming. I don't have a problem with it, and I don't see what the problem is. I mean, you're always saying that you want to give teachers, you want to give to teachers. I mean, this is giving back to teachers.
And thank you very much, Ms. Barrera, for saying that exactly, because why can't we give, again, and I'll say it again, why can't we give him more? She just said it. Again, I always want to give him more. I guess it's just me that always wants.
No,
Let me- let me-
it's not just you.
Let me,
All right,
again,
let me bring this
finish.
back to order.
No,
Let me
now
bring
you guys
this
are gonna
back
put
to
in order.
order,
Ya no quieren que les
please.
diga nada.
Because here, sir, look, your implication is that you are the only one that has the best interest of the employees
sir,
in mind.
because you make
Well,
it
this
sound
is
like
what
that.
you are saying, sir. This
You
is
make
what
it sound
you're
like that.
implying.
I'm saying.
And
I'd
I
like
really-
to-
I
What I'm
don't
saying is,
appreciate
I'd like to have the choice to give the employees a different choice than just what we're given.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, what we're doing is going
They're
with
giving it
what
to
is
us.
recommended by the superintendent and by the director.
And that's what I'm saying. Why is it that we can't have the option to give him more as a board? That's what I'm saying.
You are going to be given some information in just a minute if you are just patient. There is a motion on the
the
floor
information that you
by
already know
trustee Barrera, and there is a second by
Crazy.
trustee Rodriguez to approve agenda item number 7 as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
For all those opposed, please indicate so by saying no and
Aye.
raising your hand.
And Dr. Guerra, just a follow-up, this is an addition to what we
Yeah.
had already approved.
Okay.
That is correct.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 8, discussion
Why
and
couldn't we
possible
approve more
action
back then?
on approving booster vaccine stipend
you
in
let
an
him
amount
speak.
not
You let
to
him
exceed
speak.
$350
Why couldn't we
for
do
all
more
Roma
last time?
ISD employees.
This is ridiculous.
Presenter will be District Federal Programs Director, Dr. Adrian Guerra. Dr. Guerra?
So agenda item number 8, Roma ISD is proposing a one-time stipend for all professional and paraprofessional employees who are employed by Roma ISD and who are able to provide us with proof that they have received the COVID-19 booster shot. Employees who meet this criteria will receive a $350 stipend. Employees will need to submit proof of vaccination to their respective campus principal or department supervisor by February 11th in order to meet the deadline to be paid on or around March 11th. Again, that's the same day as we're paying the caring for Roma ISD. Roma ISD believes that vaccinations are voluntary and will not force or coerce any employee to get fully vaccinated or boosted against their will. There will be an exemption for employees, individuals with valid medical conditions or religious belief objections that prevent them from participation in this stipend. Individuals who meet these two criteria will still be able to receive a stipend. This is the same criteria we used earlier in the school year for the last stipend. The funds for this stipend will come from the ESSER 3 grant. Roma ISD is committed to ensuring a safe and healthy environment for all employees and students. We believe that through this stipend, more staff members will be willing to receive the booster vaccine, leading to an improved and safer working environment. So the approximate cost for this will be $420,700. On the next page in your packet, I included for you a printout from the CDC about booster shots. This is just informational. This is not something you are voting on or approving. So the requirements of this stipend will be included in the memo that I send out tomorrow morning to all employees. But before answering any of your questions, I want to provide you with a summary of the stipends that we've provided all employees that have received or will receive this school year action. So let's talk about the retention recruitment stipend. $4,500 for professionals, $2,250 for paraprofessionals. The first vaccine stipend was $350. The Caring for Roma ISD payment that you just approved is $2,000 for professionals and $1,750 for paraprofessionals. The booster vaccine stipend, if approved tonight, this agenda item will be $350. So the March 11 payment for professionals will be $2,350 and for paraprofessionals $2,100 if all the criteria are met. Overall, for the school year, professionals will have received a total of $7,200 in stipends and paraprofessionals a total of $4,700. For teachers, this amount will be even more when we include the pay for curriculum writing and tutorials that are occurring after school and on Saturdays. So that being said, the recommendation to the board is to approve this agenda item as presented for the $350 for the vaccine, for the booster vaccine, excuse me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Guerra. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Yes, is this still coming out from the same 350 that we gave him last time?
I'm sorry, ask that question again?
The 350 that we gave him last time, is this money coming out from the same spot, from the same fund?
It's coming from ESSER, yes.
Okay, and we couldn't give him, la última vez, we could not give him $1,000, but this time we,
The last time we talked about
es que sir,
reasonable, allocable, necessary, and allowable. And the main concern was the reasonable amount.
sir, again, it's what's reasonable to you, what you think is allowable, that's what I'm saying, sir.
What is
Reasonable throughout the school districts in the state of Texas.
in the state of Texas, right? TEA?
You gave us, last time you gave us samples, and you gave us samples of the ones that were the least. I can guarantee you that there's others that are paying more.
Perhaps after that they did.
Oh.
I don't know if they did.
But we
don't
we
have a repository where I can go check what every school district
But
is
you
getting.
followed up on the other ones last time, not this time.
I'm sorry. say
In other
that
words,
again?
you followed up on the ones last time to see who was giving 350 and 150 and
No, I
250.
didn't follow up. We're giving the same stipend we gave last time.
No, sir, when,
Because it's not gonna be reasonable that we gave $350 for the first stipend, and then we give more for this one. I also have to look at that.
that's not what I'm saying, sir. I said, you gave us examples of school districts that were paying 150 and 250 because 350 was, you know what, like that was the highest. But there were the other school districts that were paying more. There's some.
Perhaps. At that time, I brought up to you what I found on the internet through a Google search.
And they all were below 300 or
I think
350.
From my memory, yes.
You had said like 250 if I
And some were
recall.
less.
So we decided to give 350 for all employees.
That was a recommendation.
That's
That
the
was a
recommendation.
And for it to be reasonable for this one, we would have to stay with the same one. That's what I recommend.
I don't see a problem the way that you've been handling it, Dr. Guerra, I'm sorry. I recall last time Mr. Moreno was arguing that he wanted to do $1,000. Let's assume that the $1,000 would be given to each employee. And the way that you've been handling is that, their first and second dose, then now there's a booster, and there's now talks about there being another booster. So I could see this for going to another stipend, which would, in essence, end up being a total of $1,000, which was anticipated at the beginning. Now, if that $1,000
sounds
would
real
have.
nice. That sounds real
I'm
nice.
sorry, I'm still speaking.
That sounds real nice.
All right, that's enough.
With that one, if this has been going in efforts to, mitigate the spread and to, I guess that's kind of an incentive of continuing with the boosters to try to, avoid complications if they get infected with the vaccine. If they don't get their boosters, I mean, their antibodies, they wear off. So, I mean, as you continue with your boosters, I mean, why not continue getting that little stipend versus just getting that $1,000 and then not get the booster anymore, and then now your health is at risk.
And we're certainly.
You know what I'm saying?
We'll look into it as long as ESSER funding is available. Definitely.
Yeah,
We're not always going to be throwing a life jacket.
of course not. And these funds, we're only getting them for about 3 years, if I'm not mistaken.
We'll go into it in one of the agenda items after this.
But there are talks about now maybe having a recommendation of getting a booster maybe even every 6 months or maybe every year. So if we can continue this going, I mean, I think it's a little good incentive for every employee at the district or every staff member at the district to continue getting their booster.
Definitely, and the goal of this really is to be sure that our staff, our employees are safe. We
For our
don't want them in
students.
the hospital, we want
Exactly.
them here working and leading to student excellence, and that's why we're encouraging them
Exactly.
to get boosted and to get their vaccine. Definitely.
Thank you, Dr. Guerra. All right, there's a motion on the floor by trustee Escobar and seconded by trustee Barrera to approve agenda item number 8 as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
4-4. All those opposed?
Aye. And just for the note, in other words, the reason I'm voting against is because we don't decide on the
Okay.
amounts, and in other words, and I think that our
Well,
employees,
yeah, that's
again,
what-
Mr. Perez,
that
let me
is- That
finish.
is what you say, sir.
Let me
You are
finish.
out of order, sir.
Let me finish. I think that
You
they
are
deserve
out of
more.
order, sir. You
When
had
you
your
wanna
chance
put
to
me out
say
of order,
something, sir. You had a chance to discuss this at the time.
Sir,
There- You
when-
don't have to be explaining your vote. People already know
Sir,
how you're voting.
You only want to speak,
Motion
and you want to let yours
carries,
speak
sir.
when they
Let's
want.
go into agenda item number 9. Discussion
Learn how
and
to run the
possible action
meetings.
on approving members of the 2021-2022 School Health Advisory Committee. Presenter, District Federal Programs Director, Dr. Adrian Guerra. Dr. Guerra?
So agenda item number 9 relates to the School Health Advisory Council, known as the SHAC. So the SHAC meets at least 4 times each year. The council has to have a minimum of 5 individuals, with a majority of the members being parents. The duties of the SHAC include recommending policies, procedures, strategies, and curriculum appropriate for the specific grade levels assigned to prevent physical health concerns. I've included in your packets a list of individuals that are being recommended to serve as members of the SHAC. The parents included in this list were recommended by the campus principals. Not all campuses are represented in this list, as I have established a rotation of campuses. The campuses that did not provide a recommendation for this school year will provide one next school year. So the recommendation tonight is to approve the list as presented, with one addition from the original list that was placed on board book. The individual listed next to number 6 was added on January 24th, this Monday, in the afternoon. So I ask you to approve the list as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Guerra. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? If no further discussion, there's a motion on the floor by trustee Escobar and seconded by trustee Barrera to approve agenda item number 9 as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
5-4, none against, and 2 absent, motion carries. Agenda item number 10, update on ESSER grants. Presenter, District Federal Programs Director, Dr. Adrian Guerra.
So for agenda item number 10, I'm going to provide you with an update on the ESSER grants. This is not an action item. It is simply an informational item. Therefore, no vote will be needed at the end of the presentation. So as you listen to the presentation, please do not become overwhelmed with the balances of funds that remain unused. I will go over the use of funds plan for ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, and you will notice that there is a plan in place for the effective use of these grant funds. I want to make you aware that the requirements and examples of allowable uses of ESSER funds have been changing very rapidly from month to month at the federal level and at the state level. I participated in numerous webinars and workshops with the Texas Education Agency that end up with more questions than answers. Even the documentation requirements have changed drastically. Just this week, we were informed of a new report that has to be submitted within 9 days of the time when Mr. Alani submits payment requests to TEA. These reports have to match our ESSER applications and have to match the list of allowable uses. This means we have to be extra careful with all the moving parts involved in ESSER. Without these reports, we do not receive payment reimbursements. For most federal grants, payments automatically flow from TEA once Mr. Alani submits a payment request along with the proper documentation. In the case of ESSER, TEA has made these payments for manual approval, meaning that TA staff have to manually check the reports that I send for accuracy before releasing any funds, and if it's not accurate, they do not release the funds to the school district. So be aware that ESSER grants have a much tighter restrictions than regular federal grants, such as Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. And they're much more complicated and delicate requirements for reporting. So let me give you an example. One example is I need to submit a detailed expenditure report by April the 1st for each ESSER grant. And I have to go back to the beginning of the whole grant period. We don't even know what the report will look like. We were given an overview of the reports this morning. I do know that the reports require narratives as to how the funds fulfilled the ESSER grant requirements, with specific examples, along with dollar amounts in different categories. These reports will then be published on the internet by the U.S. Department of Education. The training occurs on March 11th. That is the Friday that we go out for spring break. So that gives me spring break plus 2 weeks when we come back to get all the data collected and organized and submitted. And that's just the federal report. And I have to do this separate report for each ESSER grant. There's 3 of them. Then I also have to do a state report that's due sometime this spring. And that's a separate one for each ESSER grant. I have to be sure that all the expenditures match the grant applications, the use of funds plan, and the specific set-asides. This is a tough balancing act. So I give you these details for you to understand that all of our expenditures and the use of funds plan have been carefully balanced and thought out based on the guidance that I received from TEA and USDE, the United States Department of Education. All of these expenditures are carefully tracked and monitored. So now let's have some fun and let's take a look at the ESSER funds so I can give you an overview of where we are. If you go back to your packets, the first page under agenda item number 10 talks about ESSER 1. So ESSER 1 came out as a result of the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Stimulus Act. The period availability is from March 13, 2020 through September 30th, 2022. The grant award for Roma ISD was $3,515,575. So this is the expenditure update as of January 21st, 2022. For payroll, in ESSER 1 again, we spend $1,966,000 with $63.89. For contracted services, we spent $88,395.54. For supplies and materials, we spent $779,112 with 27 cents. Nothing was spent on travel or registration fees. On capital outlay, we spent $498,478.23. We received indirect costs of $176,373 with 87 cents. That brings the total to $3,508,423 with 80 cents. Remaining balance of ESSER 1 is $7,151 with 20 cents, but that'll be used up this year with the completion of one of the projects that we were doing of the Active Directory. So that's going to be used up. If you go to the next page, you have ESSER 2 that came out of the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, known as CRISA. So that's available from March 13th, 2020 to September 30th, 2023. The grant amount was $14,996,667. So for payroll, we budgeted $7,740,000. We've spent $63,253.94. The balance for payroll is $7,676,746 with 6 cents. For contracted services, we budget $1,043,070. Encumbered means there's a purchase order out there. We've encumbered $75,488 with 35 cents. We've spent $191,349.24 with a balance of $776,232 with 41 cents. I'm not going to go over every single one of them, but if we look at the bottom, the balance right now is $12,810.904 with 77 cents.
12 million.
12 million, I'm sorry, $12,810,904 with 77 cents. Thank you, Mr. Guzman. It's been a very long day today. Indirect costs that we get from ESSER 2 are $801,872. And if you look at the next page, it's a folded page. It's a ledger-sized page. This is a use of funds plan that we established at the beginning of the school year. So all this comes from input from the community. And that's what the guidance has been from TEA and USD, that we have to have input from the community. How do we get that? We got that from a survey that was sent out last year as to what to put in these use of funds plan. At the same time, the guidance that we received from TEA. So if you look at this plan, there's 3 columns, columns C, D, and E, that gives you the plan for each year. For this ESSER 2, we didn't have any expenditures for 2020, 2021, because we didn't receive the notice of grant approval until 2021. So this school year of 2021, 2022, you see there that at the very bottom, we have $8,684,057 allocated for this school year, and I've broken them up by payroll, and I'll give you some examples of what we're paying from there. This caring for Roma ISD, we're spending $2.5 million, and that's coming out of that part. We've got nurses, additional nurses that we hired, that's coming out of that. If we look at supplies and materials, you'll have a presentation later for interactive flat panels. We've allocated $1,200,000 for that, and that's going to be directly impacting our students and their learning and their excellence. At the very bottom, we have capital outlay, buses, instruments, some stuff with CTE. So that's what we've allocated for this school year. So there's a plan for everything. If you look at column F, it says justification, and you say, for example, 2A, 2N. The very last page of your booklet, it's a yellow page. It lists the justification for everything. So this means that I cannot go out there and spend money at random. I have to have a justification for it. You know, all these funds that come through ESSER, they require additional documentation. But for everything, I have to have a justification, and we're putting there, and this, by the way, this is a public document, that this updated one will be placed on the internet. We've got one that we did last year, but this will be updated. But then at the bottom, we have the amounts. And we've got the $14,996,667, and indirect cost of a little bit over $800,000. So this is our guide for everything that we're spending on, okay? But I think it's a very healthy blend of giving money to the employees, giving to the students what they need, and the teachers what they need in the classroom. So it's a very healthy balance. If you go to the next page on ESSER 3, that comes from the American Rescue Plan Act, ARP, the ARP Act. So the period availability for that one is March 13, 2020 to September 30th, 2024. We were awarded $33,691,265. Again, I've broken it up as to what's budgeted, what has been encumbered, what has been spent, and the balance that we have that has remained unused. But again, if you go to the next page, it's a page, a ledger size, 11 by 17, that's been folded. That is the use of funds plan for ESSER 3. If you notice, column D, for example, 2021-2022, just for the Gladiator Opportunities for Learning and Discovery, that means the tutorials that are happening after school. We've assigned $1,863,000 that goes into payroll, into the pockets of the teachers and teacher aides that are tutoring the kids after school. We've assigned $1,425,000 to the after school and Saturday curriculum updates, because things are changing so fast in the classroom. So we're giving the opportunity for the teachers to update their curriculum and everything that has to be updated. For the retention stipend, $4,500,000 for 3 years also. And you see, we've already budgeted for that, and we're gonna make damn sure that we have that money available over the next 3 years. Then we have the summer programs in there. And everything's outlined year by year. Of course, this one goes an extra year because we have all the way to 2024. I provided justifications. If you look at the last page, those are the same justifications that we're using for this. Understand also that with ESSER, we have certain requirements that have to be met. A certain percentage has to be used for example, learning loss. I can't use all the ESSER on just one thing. I've got to address that certain percentage by law. We've got to do it, otherwise we don't get that reimbursement. In fact, the report that I have to turn in March, I've already got outlined that percentage that we're using for learning loss and exactly what are we doing in this district to address learning loss. So that's the ESSER 3 funds. And again, this is informational. It's not something that we need to vote on, but the board requested an update on ESSER. But everything has been carefully budgeted, and in mind, we've got student excellence at the top of everything that we do. Be assured of that.
Dr. Guerra,
Yes.
now that you mentioned learning loss, I know those students that are out due to COVID, they are put in that little instructional or supplemental or virtual remote learning for that 2 hours or so. Is their salary coming out of this budget, or is that going through the general fund?
So we have a few teachers that were hired to do that virtual. Yeah. They are being paid out of federal funds.
Out of federal funds, okay.
Yes.
Now, I have another question to ask, and I don't know, so that's why, I'm gonna ask, yeah. And then that question or that answer may lead to something else. Do we have anything in place, kind of like instructional videos or anything like that for students, kind of like to reinforce like a lesson or something like that?
That would be something addressed probably by the principals themselves as to what they
But
decide.
do we have something like that, or,
We have instructional programs, or what do you call them?
because I know
Each campus will decide on what they,
yeah, but I've seen, like, they have to read and then they do their questions and stuff, but I'm asking about like an actual, I guess like a tutor, or like, you know how sometimes there's YouTube videos explaining a certain concept, so that's what I'm asking, is do we have something like that where it's a video with the lesson?
I don't know, we'd have to talk to the different individual principals. If they've decided that that's part of their instructional program, then they would. If not, then.
And realize that a lot of money was also given to the campuses to purchase different software that is being targeted for learning loss
Yes,
also.
so that's what I'm asking. I don't know if in those softwares there is something, like that. And the reason I'm asking is just because, well, I mean, the 10 days, it's significant. It's a significant amount of learning loss that they're having, and I know the efforts are there to try to keep them afloat with everything that's going on, but we can't compare 2 hours of the little instruction that they have to the 6 hours in school that they're in school. So the reason I'm asking is just kind of like for that, especially for the high school and the middle school, if we can get something, if we can look for something where they have that little instruction and they can just play the video and not fall too behind on their lessons, because 10 days, I mean, it's a lot, especially in the high school levels and the middle school levels. It's a lot of information that students may be, I guess, falling back on. So just kind of like a little supplement to help teachers and to help students to keep on with their work.
I can check, but I know that each subject area has a textbook.
Yeah.
And they usually come with a lot of that stuff.
And okay, now that we touch on textbooks, do we have those in PDF,
The what?
the textbooks? So that we can also upload them to their Google Classroom?
It would depend on what.
On their book?
The textbook company that they decided on, whether or not, what's available with those. So some may not.
So a lot of teachers that are in charge of using the Google Classroom, when I talked about additional stresses that teachers have to go through.
No, I know.
But let me give you this example also of what they're going through when we talked about all this. They're also having to upload stuff for those kids también, so they are being given the information, definitely.
I know, and that's why, I know they are doing a lot, and sometimes I know at least my son, and I'm not saying that their teachers didn't do it, they would put their assignments and all that, and my son was able to keep up, but there were some times that he was like, Mom, I don't understand this, can you help me, this and that. So it's kind of like, a little additional support. It'll help the teacher, it'll help the student, it'll help the district, it'll help everybody, just so that they don't fall too behind. If it's something that is possible, then, try to see if we can do something through this fund. I mean, if that's what they would want, I mean.
I know that, for example, at least for the bilingual program, I know that we do have a program because it's not just now because of the loss of learning for COVID, but
It's been always.
about 5 years. The summer textbook, and I know that all campuses are implementing that, and they have different, they're all using the one that is for the language development, which also never helps us with it. Additionally, there's some for vocabulary, for reading, for writing, for math, science, and the campuses have all had the demos, and different campuses have purchased different ones.
Is that the one that is interactive? Yes, right.
And
I've seen it.
The teachers can use them as a whole for the class, and then they assign the different lessons. And I know that the remote teachers are using them because one of the administrators from the higher actually reached out to me a couple of days ago, because since some of the students that are virtual are assigned to a campus, but their teacher is at RT and not assigned to that campus, so they were having some trouble, so we have to have that teacher assigned to more than one campus so they can access it. So that's what, I know that they are using them, when those students are learning from home. So, but aside from, and that's just on the bilingual side of the program, there's a lot of different programs that different campuses use, but like Dr. Navarro, the different principals have different, there's not one thing for all that everybody.
But what I'll say is this, the ESSER funds are kind of committed. But we do have EMAT and through Mr. Guzman. So any principal that feels that they need instructional videos, instructional material, talk to your curriculum people. We can definitely look through a different fund, which is the EMAT, to take care of that
Yeah,
the
and I'm just
principal
saying,
so
just so
chooses.
that students don't fall behind, it doesn't affect
Yeah.
the teacher, because I know teachers are now being rated with their performance and with student performance, and it doesn't affect the district, and, everybody
We have
wins.
funds available through the EMAT that we can go ahead and tap into.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Guerrero. We'll go to agenda item number 11, consideration possible action for the approval of a resolution to extend paid sick leave for district employees testing positive for COVID-19. Presenter, District Business Manager, Mr. Pedro Alanis.
We would like to recommend the board to approve a resolution to extend paid sick leave for district employees testing positive for COVID-19. We recommend providing additional paid sick leave to all regular employees, contracted and non-contracted, salary and non-salary. It will serve the public purpose of protecting students and staff, reducing turnover, and maintaining morale. The current Centers for Disease Control, CDC, guidance effective January 22nd recommend that persons testing positive for COVID-19 should stay at home for at least 5 days. Prior to that, it was 10 days. We recommend providing a maximum of 10 work days of paid sick leave for regular employees and to make it retroactive to September 1st, 2021. To all personnel employed as of December 31st, 2021, and to recommend authorizing a superintendent as per board policy DEC local to make any necessary changes, such as extending for newly hired employees or creating and implementing administrative regulations consistent with this resolution. This extended leave expires at the end of 2020-2021 unless the board takes action to extend it for next year.
You said 10 days?
10 days.
10 days.
Any other questions for Mr. Alanis?
Is there going to be a certain criteria? I don't know if you mentioned it, I didn't hear it.
They need to test positive for COVID-19 or unless the superintendent can make changes.
Okay, what about taking care of a child with COVID-19?
Well, those
Because- Yeah, because, as a parent, nobody's going to be taking care of your child if they have COVID. You're going to have to take care of themselves, even if they don't test positive. So I think if that hasn't been considered, I think it should be considered.
We'll get together with Mrs. Belmontes and Mr. Guzman
And give me a recommendation.
yes.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Alanis?
No.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 11 as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? If no further discussion, there is a motion on the floor by Trustee Barrera and seconded by Trustee Rodriguez to approve agenda item 11 as presented. All those in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
5-4, none opposed, 2 absent, motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item number 12 is consideration possible action to approve the purchase of 200 interactive flat panels, IFPs, which will be used in the classrooms. District Business Manager, Mr. Pedro Alanis, and District Technology Director, Mr. Edgar Garza.
The district received proposal from 13 different vendors for the 200 interactive flat panels. We met and we evaluated the other vendors, and we're recommending approving ACES Consulting. They have the most number of points. They have been in the district for over 12 years. We always been purchasing the smart board with that company.
Currently, we have about 420 products from this from Smart Technologies, right? So that was one of the reasons that we liked the proposal. It had a good price, and it's it comes with a software that our teachers already know, so it's easier for them to continue with the software because they've already created lessons and they have in the software, so it'll make the transition will be a lot easier for them. And a lot of the smart boards that we currently have in a lot of the campuses are over 10, 15 years old. So these 200 would cover, we would need about 360 maybe, but this would be a good start so we can put them where there is the higher need.
The total cost is $675,200, and it's gonna come out from the ESSER funds. I believe that it's,
I'm just gonna ask, why can't we get them all?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that too.
If we have the funds, so that's what I'm saying, why can't we get them all? We have the money.
we're gonna start, with this, and based on the budget, we're with Dr. Guerra's budget, we're making sure we have for staff, it's either we give to staff or we buy more. So if we buy more smart boards, it's gonna be less for the staff. So we're trying to balance,
No, sir, because it's already broken down here.
Mr. The thing was, it was budgeted, we had budgeted, I think Dr. Herrera put 1.2 million, because more or less the price was around 6,000 per unit, so that's what we were assuming we were gonna get about 200, so that's why we went out for bids for 200, because that's how much was budgeted for in this, we're doing it like yes, we wanna do it all, but then it makes it difficult for the company to come and install 400 smart boards and interfere, so this is a way to start. But the prices were a lot lower than what we expected, so we're hoping that we can go and do another bid so we can get more flat panels.
Wouldn't you get a better price if you buy even more?
But this one, because we did for 200, then we can ask the company if they would honor, let's say, 50 more or 100 more at that same price. That's something that could be done, or we might have to go out for bids again.
I think that we should get them all.
currently we have smart boards in the classroom and they're using them. So it would be like a kind of a waste if we replace a board that's currently being used.
When was the most recent one that was replaced? Which,
This year.
this year, okay, which school? Or was it random?
We put, I think there's right now we have 66 interactive flat panels in the district right now. The majority are in DGG because when it was built, those were the ones that were put. I know that VME has 18 that were purchased the school year. I know that Roma Middle School has 5 and Roma High School has 5. I think the CT was able to purchase some for there. So the ones that are in campuses, they are working, right? Some are not. We have the breakdown from the technicians that went in and checked how many were working and which were not. So they're still, it's not like they're not getting, they don't have it or they don't have the service, right? So this is something, but the plan is to replace them all if they're, but
let me
in phases.
But let me ask you something, sir. Are these better than the old ones?
Yes.
You see, that's what I'm saying. Why? And I hear it because from the teachers, aquellos tienen allá la that's what I'm saying.
And
we have the funds.
Our government is to replace all those boards within the next 2 years. This year we're gonna start with these 200, and next year we're gonna replace another 100, and at the end we have funds available, we'll replace the rest. But over a 3-year period, and so we can have more staff for the more money available for the staff.
Sir, and I'm just gonna say, because again, you said that already twice, but there's a chart that we just saw, that they just showed us right now, where there's so much broken down for salaries, so much broken down for this, so we're not taking away from the staff.
No, but like, we have money left over, and maybe we can use it for another booster shot. In 3 or 4 months, we can give another.
Sir, but we're another shot.
We need to have like a reserve for the next 2 years. Maybe we need other items, other than smart boards.
Now, let me ask this. Now, going with what Mr. Moreno is proposing, I think we need to accommodate as many teachers as we can. Let's say we go ahead and approve, and if we change the proposal to a little bit, that if we can, you said that you guys had estimated more or less 1.2 million, and it's way less. It's actually almost half the amount of that.
There's this amount, there's still part, this is for the flat panel.
For the panel
We still need
itself.
to purchase the computer that goes in the back.
Okay.
Which is, but it's better to purchase it from,
Like another
Dell than from the company.
And-
The company's gonna buy it from Dell, and then they're gonna resell it to you.
Yeah, and how much is
They're
that
about
other amount
650
each?
each, more or less. So you're talking about $4,000 more or less per a complete set of the flat panel. So we were expecting 6,000, so it's better because that's how much it was paid before, but as technology advances, the prices start going down, so when they were built, where they were put in DGG, it was something new. Now it's more, it's been coming out more, so then they're a little bit more affordable. So right now, we had asked for 200 because that's how much from our budgeted amount, but now that there's some money left over, then we can go
So-
ahead and get some more.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, because right now, if we go with this, it's gonna be 200.
Yes.
But if we just say we can leave it up to the discretion of the superintendent and there's more money available, can we purchase, I don't know, 250 or something? Can we go ahead and do
As
that?
long as we don't go over the.
Yeah, as long as you don't go over
budgeted amount.
the budget.
If they really need it at the campus, then we can, but if it's still working, they're using it,
No, and the reason I'm asking is because I know you mentioned that later you might have to come back and request the quote again, and maybe if later you buy less, maybe the product is gonna be a higher amount.
Let me ask a question.
So-
How much is the total amount that we were budgeting? And it was 1.2 million? As long as we don't go over 1.2 million, if we, like Mr. Moreno, Ms. Barrera said, if we go with more than, what is it, 200, that we can afford with that budgeted amount, then I think the
So
motion
if
should
we
be
can,
made.
if we can change the motion to maybe up to the amount of $1.2 million or something like that, to give a little bit more room so that you guys can purchase more?
Well,
Sure.
there's no motion yet.
No, if we're, you're going for the, no, there is. Possible motion to approve the purchase?
I know, but I haven't asked, they're making their
Nobody has made
presentation.
the
Nobody has
Oh,
made
no,
a
no,
motion
no,
yet.
no, that's what I'm saying. If we are to change the motion to give that
but
flexibility.
the RFP specified 200.
200, okay, so we'll go with the 200, and if there's money left over, we'll have a conversation with them to see if they
To
can
see
leave
if
it
we
at the
can-
same amount,
okay.
and then we'll come back to the board.
Okay.
Now, I've been out of the classroom for a while. When I was a teacher, smart boards were, is it still the same thing or is it changed?
It's changed. This is now like a TV, right? So it's a touch TV from the smart boards. The smart boards, the old ones, the sensors. After if they would get dirty in the corners, then you would write in it. These are more accurate.
Okay. And how big?
They last a lot longer.
And how big is that?
These are 75 inches.
Okay.
And I think even the ones that were in DGG were 65 inches.
So they're bigger.
They were more expensive. Now they're 75, and you can see like the TVs right now, you can get them before, I mean, it was very expensive, but the technology is advancing, so the prices are going down. So now we're getting 75-inch IFPs for less of a price.
And if I may just also say, Mr. Moreno, if the reason why we do it in groups is because you don't want to, in the future, we're gonna need them, we're gonna need to replace them. You don't wanna replace everything at one time because the district's not gonna be able, if you do it in increments, it just makes sense that out of the 200, we may end up a certain year, a large number of those have to replace, and we're gonna have to, it's gonna have to come out of somewhere. And like Mr. Moreno has said, Esther's not gonna be around forever. So we don't wanna have them all expire or kind of expire in the same term, time frame, if that makes any sense.
You don't want to be in 10 years and 15 years having to replace 400 IFPs at once for the general fund.
Well, thank you, Mr. Alanis and Mr. Garza. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 12 as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? If no further discussion, there is a motion on the floor by trustee Barrera and seconded by trustee Escobar to approve agenda item number 12 as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
5-4, 2 absent, none against, motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item number 13, consideration possible action to approve the purchase of an LED video scoreboard for the Roma Gladiator Arena. Presenters, District Business Manager, Mr. Pedro Alanis, District Athletic Director, Coach Max Hobbecker Jr.
The district received proposal from 5 vendors for LED video scoreboard. Based on the evaluations, we recommend approving digital scoreboards. They received the most points in the evaluation, and it's also the least expensive. The cost was $579,195, and then we're gonna add the 4x4 LED delay of gate clock. It's at 7,500. And then for the advertising panels, to advertise for possible sponsors, 17,000. So the total amount is $603,695. The LED display is 25 foot, 2.5 inches in height by 40 foot wide. It comes with a 10-year warranty for parts and 5 years for labor. It has the best warranty of the other vendors. They have 5-year warranties. And the expected completion date is about 8 to 10 weeks. I don't know if you need details on the product.
I have a question. We had a workshop, or there was a workshop scheduled for 5:30. We get our board book, sir. On the workshop, it said to present bids and to possible sponsors. Why is it that we didn't get the stuff with our packet? And then right now, tampoco no viene nada. So why is it that we didn't get stuff if you guys already had it? Why didn't we get it?
Included in the packet?
No, sir.
In the board book, in the board book.
This one? But it was uploaded late because I've got this. A mí me entregaron, I get this. So that's, I'm just asking, so it was on board book because it wasn't here.
It's on board book.
When was it uploaded to board book?
It's because not everybody requests a paper copy.
But that's what I'm saying, but what's here is what's ever on board book. When was it uploaded to board book?
No, there were some things that were on here that I didn't see on board book, but I know that it gets updated.
As we get more documents, we upload it.
That's what I'm asking, when was it uploaded?
Maybe Monday, I can get the date, but it was Monday, maybe yesterday, I don't know. And for this project, we're gonna be receiving revenue from sponsors. We're still working on the sponsors. We recommend using our repair and replacement fund to pay for the scoreboard instead of financing. If we pay it up front, we can save approximately $64,000 in interest during the next 5 years. The money received in advertising will go back into the repair and replacement fund.
Mr. Lanis, how much did you budget for advertisement?
About 600,000. So it's gonna pay by itself. Over the 5-year period, it's gonna pay by itself.
So we're gonna have 100,000 in sponsors per year?
Yes, about 130,000 more or less.
130,000 in sponsors?
That's our goal, to have 130,000 in sponsors.
But, so where are we gonna pay this from, sir?
From the repair and replacement fund. It's not gonna affect the general fund.
What's the balance on this repair and replacement
It's
fund?
about 5 million, it's a little bit over $5 million. 5.6, I believe.
And where's this noted, these 5 million, the repair and replacement fund? Where do we see those?
It's in our financial statements.
So it's there?
Yes,
The 5 million are there?
yes.
Where, sir? On what line item?
Going to page 61 of the board book.
Sir, don't get me wrong, sir. I'd love, my son plays sports, and he doesn't play football. He runs track. I'd love it, but again, I think that there's other things that are still needed. I think that we had asked back, and we asked for a special ed covered walkway from going out of the high school, where the kids load the buses when it's raining, when it's cold. See, that's what I'm saying. I think that the workshop should be for something like that.
And we can get it from these funds, if they request it,
We can get what, sir?
the walkway or.
So we can get a special ed walk and for the cover.
The cost, and if it's,
Okay.
on page 61 of the board book, we have the balance is $5,650,000.
Which page? I'm sorry.
61.
Oh, sir, but this is, yeah, but this is what we have from the, yeah, from the repair and replace, but where is this noted, like, here on the, on your financial report?
On the other report, it's,
Yeah, because this is the lawsuit money.
yeah, it's on page 31 of the other report.
No. I'm saying like,
It says 5,641,000 in the audit.
yes, but where do we see it? Like on our financial reports, where do we see that money?
This is the audit report that was presented earlier today.
That's where we see it?
It's in several places, in the computer, it's in here, it's
Por eso digo, but on the forms that we get monthly,
on page 61 of the board book.
yes, sir, but that's a report that we generate. In other words, it's an Excel sheet. Where is that money? Somewhere on these line items right here, on the what is it? On the comparison and expenditures of, in other words, everything's broken down there. Where is that money listed there?
On the revenue and expenditure report, it's the expenses, the monthly expenses. This is money that's available, and it's here in the audit report, and it's, we provide it monthly and update every month. It's on page 61 of the board book.
So, in simple terms, Mr. Lenise, we're gonna get the money from the lawsuit money.
No, repair replacement.
Sir, but where did that money that's there in the repair and replacements come from?
It's a combination. It's from capital projects, and we also have for the lawsuits that we have for Ramiro Barrera, for RC Science and the Performing Arts. We have the money there deposited also.
Sir,
We're almost done with the Ramiro Barrera School, RC Science. We're just pending the field house. The field house and the Performing Arts.
but that's what we're repairing.
Yes.
Where are we getting that money to repair it from?
It's already there. It's already
Where, how did that money get there, sir? Where did we get that money from?
combinations, lawsuit money, and then we had a,
How much did we get for the lawsuit money total?
11
But that's what it is.
$11 million.
That's what it is. So that,
We spent $2.8 million in the JRTC. It came from that fund. And there's a lot of...
there's
on
a
page
swimming
61,
pool, there's an elementary gym, there's a softball field grandstand, I understand my question, sir, in simple terms, sir. That money's from the lawsuit money.
Part of the money.
Sir, it's 11,
Part of the money is from the lawsuit money.
sir, it's 11 million. How much did we get in the lawsuit money?
In the
11
lawsuit
million.
money, it was over $11 million. The fund has earned $500,000 in interest.
And it, sir, I know, I don't know, am I not explaining? The money that's there, sir, in that repair and replacement fund, where did we get it from? From the lawsuit money?
Yes, most of the money was from the lawsuit money, but we have other sources.
How much, and you said that we got over 11 million for the lawsuit money. Well, that's what's here. So that's it. So the money from the lawsuit money is this.
And capital projects. We combine the funds, we combine capital projects and repair and replacement.
Well, if we, okay, sir, I'm just trying to explain, sir. If we had more money coming in there, there'd be more than 11.6 in that thing, and there's not.
$11.6 million, and we spent $6,028,000.
Exactly, sir, but where did we get those 11.6 from?
Interest from lawsuit money, several sources. I can give you a detail.
No, sir, because I'm just trying to clarify, isn't it lawsuit money, just period?
Yes, the lawsuit money is there, but we have other sources.
So, sir, bottom line, we're paying for the scoreboard from the lawsuit money.
And then we're gonna get it back from advertising sponsors.
So it's kind of like a loan.
130?
And we're thinking that it's gonna pay by itself.
Okay,
So you know that
said
those are assumptions, right?
that you're estimating if you get the sponsors, and you're estimating to be getting around $130,000 in sponsorships per year. After the scoreboard is paid off, what's gonna happen with the rest of the money? The monies for the sponsors?
We can continue.
Going back into the
the fund and maybe for other scoreboards in the baseball stadiums on the field.
Sir, how do you come up with 130,000?
Excuse me?
How do you come up with 130,000?
That's it, financing for 5 years.
In the workshop, we got this.
Yeah, but Mr. Lanis, how is it that we're gonna come up with 130,000 a year?
From advertising sponsors.
Sir, but if you already, you should already know, I've got 20 sponsors at so much, you're just gonna sponsor, that's what I'm saying, you should already have an idea.
2 main sponsors at 25,000. Their logos are gonna be on top of the LED screen. They're 4 foot by 12, by 20, 4 by 20. And then on the bottom, we have 4. And they're gonna be 4 by 10. 4 by 10, and they're gonna be $10,000 per year. And then the rest is gonna be during the game.
In the commercials, like the commercials.
The commercials and. Yeah, for the timeout commercial, half time, extra point, there's like a season cost,
And sir, because I think you all did your due diligence, did we contact like other schools to see how much is it that they collect?
Yes, sir. We developed this system by contacting other schools and using the same frameworks that they did to complete their boards in the same manner.
It sounds awesome, in 5 years, 130,000, pero it's gonna happen, 130,000, and se va a hacer el scoreboard. What if the 130,000 no?
The scoreboard was over 250,000. The one we have right now, it was 250,000.
But
The school district paid for.
but that one was a major sponsor because that one,
It was the school district, we paid it.
we paid it and then we put the bank's name.
Yes. Or maybe if they pay, it was not even $10,000. The district paid most of the funds. We made a payment.
Yeah, because I would think that they would make, in other words, so for 10,000, it's a free advertisement because it's been there for I don't know how
Well,
long.
it's not free because they paid $10,000.
$10,000.
I don't know exactly the amount they paid, but it was not 200,000.
The scoreboard that we have currently, how much did it cost?
Over 200,000, 250, I believe.
So, okay, in the proposed, I guess the proposed screen, you guys are suggesting that there are 4 main sponsors, well, 2 main sponsors, 4 other sponsors, but they're set sponsors. And then on top of that, on the screen, you guys are gonna be advertising other sponsors, maybe local sponsors or for
For how much?
lower amount.
We have some, sir, that are generated for $1,000 a year, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000.
So we already have a commitment for 25,000?
No,
No, sir, this is a sponsorship opportunities that would go out. For these small ones, we go out to the community and allow people to promote their businesses.
I'm just saying 25,000, so they in the valley, they pay 25,000 for?
Yes, sir, in the valley, I spoke to some athletic directors that were getting $100,000 a year from single sponsors.
What happens if we don't meet that 130?
hopefully we'll make it. If not, the district is gonna cover the rest. But
Also, sir, obviously we're gonna pay for this upfront and then try and pay ourselves back. The life of these boards are about 10 years, so in fact we have 10 years to make up the.
Sir, I heard that, and I'm sorry, just because, I didn't want to bring it up, just because you brought it up right now. 10 years. That thing should have already been replaced twice. At least.
I believe it's
At
15 years
least.
old, I think. if I'm not mistaken.
It was upgraded a few years back.
At least.
Yes, we've been trying to maintain that thing until, it's exhausted.
So then we need one. We need one now.
What I was saying was that, being that we're gonna be able to pay for it and pay ourselves back, we have up to 10 years to generate the funds. We want to do it in 5,
Yes.
so that we can regain our money and then start reinvesting it back into whatever it is we choose.
Coach Habecker, how is this, the proposed scoreboard, how is this comparable to other districts?
I think that
we'll have one of the nicer ones in our area. We wanted to make sure that it was suitable for our stadium size. So, you know, we're not gonna go and compare it to something that, or a school that has a huge stadium, you know. So we went through different stadiums, looked at the different sizes, and we found something that is at the right size for us.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when we asked last time, well, actually, Mr. Moreno asked ballpark amount, you said between $500,000 and 1 million or so. So.
Between 800,000, 500,000 and 1.5?
And 1.5, yeah, I recall something like that. So the proposed amount is not, you know, it's in the lower end. And, you know, what you showed us in the workshop, I think it looks really, really nice. It's been 15 years or longer since the last time it was replaced, so I think we really need it. And I think this would be really good, not only for our students, but also for the community to enjoy, you know, football games or other activities that are out there.
Yes, I agree by graduation.
For graduation, yeah. But any event that is out there, I think the community could also take advantage of it by seeing it. So this is really nice.
Didn't we buy a $61,000 screen with ESSER funds for that?
For commencement, but it's also used for other events.
That
could be
screen,
moved around.
that screen
This
is
one is not gonna be moved
that
around.
screen is to be used by the district at any event, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I just think that, again, it's awesome because it's gonna be a score, and se va a hacer because pa' que no hacemos, but I think that there's other things that we're not looking at, and all of a sudden, we can do it.
This seems like it's gonna be a loan, Mr. Moreno, so the way they're proposing it, sponsors are gonna be paying it back, so really, it's a loan. At the end of 10 years, it'll probably be, more than likely be paid off for, and maybe have some other additional amounts available for other scoreboards or maybe other necessities that the school may have.
I can present you the
So,
worst case scenario, and I can present
I'll
real
make a
pretty
motion.
pictures.
Okay. Is there a second, Ray? Okay. Any further discussion?
No, let's do it.
If no further discussion, there's a motion on the floor by trustee Barrera and seconded by trustee Rodriguez to approve agenda item number 13 as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye and raising your hand. 4, and those opposed?
Aye.
1 opposed?
And again, I think that the money could be used differently.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno,
Yes, sir.
for your clarification.
Yes, sir.
All right, motion
Thanks for letting me
carries. Agenda item number 14, consideration possible action to advertise for RFPs for special education services for physical therapist, orientation and mobility specialist, LSSP, and educational diagnostician. Presenter, District Business Manager, Mr. Pedro Alanis.
We would like to recommend advertising for RFPs for these services for the special ed department. It's for physical therapist, orientation and mobility specialist, LSSP, and educational diagnostician. We're gonna need them to complete this year's services and for next year. So just to advertise for RFPs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alanis.
Mr. Lanis, I just have a quick question. I know Ms. Galvan was here. Ms. Galvan, I know it says to request for RFPs for a physical therapist. Is it in addition to the physical therapist that we have, or are they leaving and it's for a new one, or what's gonna happen there?
Basically, we have contracted services in those areas, and when we can, we recommend multi-year contracts. So their 2-year contract, the previous year contract will be up at the end of this school year. So for the case of physical therapy, we're looking at for securing contracted services for the following
Okay.
year and if possible multi-year so that we don't have to go through the process of auction. Unless there is a problem and we have to.
Okay.
The time that I have contracted services, we haven't had any, we haven't had any contract or anything in that area, but their contract is going to be up.
But I guess going out through this, they can, if they meet the criteria and you are comfortable with them, they can continue their services with the school if they win the bid, correct?
Correct. To the best of my knowledge, we are going to request proposals, and then based on the point system,
Yeah.
we will make a recommendation that will best suit the needs of the students and the district.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 14.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? If not, there's a motion on the floor by trustee Barrera and seconded by trustee Escobar to approve agenda item number 14 as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye. 5-4, none opposed.
Sorry.
Motion carries, 2 absent. Agenda item number 15, consideration possible action on approving extra days needed for the completion of the JROTC building and charging liquidated damages on the remaining days as per the original contract. Presenter, District Business Manager, Mr. Pedro Alanis. Good evening, Mr. Iglesias.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You want to introduce it now? Yeah. This, the JRTC building was determined, the substantial completion date for the JRTC building was September 7, 2020. And it was completed on July 20th of 2021. 325 days beyond the completion date. And Mr. Iglesias?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Board President, Board of Trustees, Mr. Guzman. The substantial completion date was July 29th, 2021, which is 325 days beyond the original completion date. During substantial completion, a couple weeks later, we did receive a memo from Davila requesting an extension of time, and included in that was a COVID letter that we had received back in September of 2020, requesting 100 days. That was previously presented to the board, but no action had been formally taken. There was also a request for some change proposal request for some additional work that was done. Those items were presented previously to the board. There was some days requested for that additional work. That additional work has been completed, so those are days to be considered for an extension. And there was also a conflict for the fire alarm upgrade that the fire marshal was requesting for the band hall. Since a portion of the new restroom was within the existing band hall, the fire marshal was requesting that the band hall fire alarm system be upgraded as well, to be tied to the same system. That wasn't part of the original design. We had numerous meetings and discussions, and the administration procured that scope of work separate outside of the contractor's work. So there was some delay there because the band hall had to be completed before they could finish some of the work at the JROTC. So there are 78 days in question regarding that. We reviewed the request for the extension of time. They were requesting exactly 325 days in that memo. We reviewed and we provided a memo to Mr. Guzman where we had indicated possibly 253 days to be considered for an extension of time. And this would leave a balance of 72 days beyond the substantial completion date. At $500 a day would be $36,000 of possible liquidated damages. There is also a remaining contingency balance of $21,969.74. That'll be credited back to the contract as well. So currently, as of right now, the balance to finish, including the retainage, is $181,632.71 on their contracts.
Mr. Iglesias, I just heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that in September of 2020, you submitted dates for COVID extension, or for that something happened with COVID. Did you just say that, or did I get that information wrong?
No, we did receive a letter from Davila.
You received, like PBK received the letter from Davila?
It was actually addressed to, I have to leave Mr. Perez.
Because if I recall a year ago when we had this meeting for the first update since Mr. Escobar, Ms. Cruz and I were on board, I asked if dates had been submitted for this, and your answer had been that not formally to the school, to the district.
So we did receive a letter. There just was no action to formally extend the contract via change order as far as the mechanism that is allowed for in the agreement between the district and the contractor. So they were presented, we were aware of, but it was always the understanding that we would address it for me at the end.
Yeah, I remember you said that. And I remember I said, well, do we have documentation of any of this?
Yes, they did provide, I guess, stay-at-home orders that they had provided. There were also orders that applied for Stark County and also Hidalgo County because some of the subs were traveling from Hidalgo County as well. They do have letters and correspondence from manufacturers, emails about delay on equipment, delay on deliveries, not having enough manpower to meet some of the manufacturing requirements to ship equipment and so forth. So we reviewed all the documentation that was provided, and in my response to the memo we received from the Davila, I was considering possibly 253 days of the 325.
Of the 325. Which-
Upon, I guess just to add, upon issuing this memo where we indicated possibly 253 days to be considered, we did receive a follow-up memo from Davila a couple weeks later requesting over 191 days of additional items that they had brought to our attention. To be honest, I mean, we reviewed it, but I think based on their initial submission, I think it's more than fair as far as the days being asked. It was, to me, was almost as if, okay, those days didn't get approved, how about these days? So when is it gonna stop? We need to bring this project to a close.
Yeah. Mr. Lanis, have you contacted the attorneys in regards to this?
Not to this,
So the attorneys have not, agreed to any of these dates or anything like that?
here, based on the recommendation, and our recommendation is, for the 325 days, we would like to recommend considering 253 and leaving 72 days for the liquidated damages.
Okay. And you said it was a total of about 36,000?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
that would be our recommendation, to consider the 253 days.
That's 253. What was the figure of 181,632?
That is the remaining balance on their contract.
So this
That's
is-
the money that's currently being withheld.
That total amount that I just,
181, yes, that's currently been withheld, and there hasn't been a payment application certified, I think, since May.
so we still have to pay this 181 is what we're saying?
That minus, yes,
The next agenda item,
Minus the,
minus the remaining balance of the contingency, 21,969.74, and if any possible liquidated damages are imposed, would be deducted from that amount as well.
and your recommendation, Mr. Guzman, is to go with this?
Mr. Iglesias present. Okay.
And Mr. Lanis, you reviewed these dates, and everything is in order, everything checks, the documentation presented?
with the Iglesias and Mr. Carmelo and Mr. Rodriguez, we met with that was our consensus. Consider approving these days.
Okay.
Okay. Is the, any further questions for Mr. Iglesias or Mr. Lanis? Then is there a motion?
I so move to accept the recommendation by our architect, Mr. Iglesias, and our business manager.
Is there a second?
253 days.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. I'm sorry.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Iglesias, you're fine with that?
I think it's more than fair. Just something to consider. Any liquidated damages, from what I understand, is typically spread out amongst all the subs that are involved in the project. So anything more than that, it'll be an impact to the subs that, struggle to get the project completed during this time. So that's typically how I understand the process.
Thank you. All right, if no further discussion, then there's a motion on the floor by trustee Escobar and seconded by trustee Rodriguez to approve agenda item number 15 as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Raising your hand.
Aye.
5-4, none against, 2 absent, motion carries.
Before we continue, can I make a comment or a request? I don't know if we can put a policy in place or something, requesting that, to avoid this type of situation in the future, that we request to be getting periodic, approval or updates of these dates whenever they're not met, if you need extensions or something, because, I mean, 200 and something days, 250, it's a lot of money. So, and I know, whatever happened before I was here, it was something different, but, now there's a new business manager, I want to have that documented for future references, and that way we can be approving as we go along. That way there's no misunderstanding or anything like that,
As we move forward. Correct.
as we move forward.
Agenda item number 16, consideration possible action on the final payment due to Davila Construction Incorporated for the completion of the Roma ISD JROTC building. Mr. Alanis?
The total contract amount for the construction of the building, including change orders, is $2,670,879. There is a contingency of $21,969.74 that was not used, so it's a total of $2,648,909. The final balance, Mr. Iglesias said, owed to the vendor is $181,632.71. If we subtract the contingency of $21,000 and the $36,000, the final payout balance is $123,662.97. And that's our recommendation to pay off the balance.
To close this off. Okay, that's, all right, is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? If not, there's a motion on the floor by trustee Escobar and seconded by trustee Barrera to approve agenda item 16 as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
5-4, none against, 2 absent. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
I just want to say thank you to Roma ISD for allowing us to be a part of this project. We really appreciate it. It turned out nice regarding, even though it was a delay, but it was completed, and we really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Iglesias, for being with us here.
Thank you, sir.
Agenda item number 17 will be Superintendent's Report Update on the District's $4,295,000 unlimited tax refunding bonds, Series 2021, and S&P Global District's credit rating. Mr. Alanis.
This is just an update on the, we finalized the refinancing of the Series 2021 bonds. We paid off $4,590,000 in bonds with an interest rate of 3.5%, and now it's $4,295,000 with an true interest cost of 1.08%. So we save a lot of interest going forward. The current present value of the finance debt was $5,135,000. And we received $4,802,235, so that's a savings of $332,802. So this saving, we're gonna reduce taxes in the future. Next school year, the taxes are gonna decrease for our taxpayers.
Good.
The other item on the rating, we had meeting with S&P Global Rating. We needed it for these bonds, and that's why. Based on our finances and our increase in fund balance for the year, we received a AAA rating and an A rating from this rating company, and it helped us get the low interest rate because of the rating. And just as these bonds, the 2021 bonds, we're paying off 2012 bonds that we refinanced 2004 bonds that were originally used for the performing arts and high school.
Okay.
This is the amount that we refinance.
So the AAA rating remains the same. That's what we had before. No.
Yes. And we save over $300,000.
And you said taxes are going to be reduced next year?
Because this is going to help reduce our taxes.
But when does it come into effect? Like what?
Next, we're going to figure this in July of 2022 for the taxes for October of 2022.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Alanis? Thank you, sir. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the time is now 8:37 p.m. And the Roma Independent School District Board of Trustees will go into closed session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071, to discuss agenda items 18, consideration possible action on approval of superintendent's evaluation, and agenda item number 19, consideration possible action on superintendent's contract. No action will be taken in closed session. We respectfully request that the Roma ISD community in attendance please wait in the auditorium, and those attending virtually to please wait in the virtual waiting room while the board is in closed session. The board is now in closed session. The time is now 8:54 p.m. And the regular meeting of the Roma Independent School Board of Trustees is back in open session. For the record, there was no action taken in closed session. Agenda item number 18, consideration possible action on approval of superintendent's evaluation. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? If not, there is a motion on the floor by trustee Escobar and seconded by trustee Barrera to approve agenda item number 18, approving the superintendent's evaluation. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed by the same sign.
I'll abstain.
One abstention. Motion carries. Agenda item number 19, consideration possible action on superintendent's contract. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? If not, there's a motion on the floor by trustee Escobar and seconded by trustee Barrera to approve agenda item number 19, the superintendent's contract. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
4-4, those opposed?
Aye.
And one opposed. No abstention, two absent, motion carries. Agenda item number 20, employment and resignation of professionals and paraprofessionals. District Superintendent, Mr. Guzman.
Yes, I'm requesting that we go ahead and accept the recommendations as presented.
I so move.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? If not, there is a motion on the floor by trustee Escobar and seconded by trustee Rodriguez to approve agenda item number 20 as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye and raising your hand. 5-4, none opposed, two absent, motion carries. Agenda item number 21, adjournment. Is there a motion?
I so move that we adjourn.
Second. All those in favor? 5-4, none opposed, motion carries. It is now 8:57 p.m., and this regular meeting of the Roma Independent School District Board of Trustees is adjourned. Thank you to those in attendance and those tuning in via the virtual arena for being with us this evening. Thank you, and have an amazing rest of the night and week. Good night.
Good night.